Anyway, we have an exciting presentation today because we're going to be showcasing partway into this presentation one of the recent works of Justin Wilkinson, who's a third generation esotericist along the theosophical line, and he's just does miraculous work combining the ageless wisdom teachings with the new science paradigms. So again, thank you all for your patience and for being with us today. So I'm going to quickly go through a couple of quotes that you've seen, and I hope you've memorized them by now, because they are the cornerstone of all of these presentations, and they should be the cornerstone of all other presenters as far as the use of audio visual aids. And this is nothing unique in my part, but when you see Justin Wilkinson's video a little later, you are just going to be in awe because he's taking some very, very advanced work and grounding it. Very, very first ray, second ray, seventh ray. So in our first quote that I assume you can all see, DK talks about what he wants his disciples to do before the end of the century. And it is basically to send the books that he, with Alice Bailey, wrote and precipitated, and with the important work of triangles and the new group of world servers. But in red is the real key to this quotation. Until they are finally superseded next century by a newer and more adequate teaching. Well, that leaves a lot to think about. And we're going to try in some small way to clarify what that might mean. Another quote by the Tibetan. People are apt to forget that with each forward advance of humanity, the demands upon the hierarchy change. New needs must be met, new techniques used, new and experimental methods must be employed. As I write for disciples and initiates, I call this to their attention. Now, we're sort of going to start from some very, very abstruse and esoteric concepts, but they're so germane because all of the previous presentations that we have made actually relate to this. Is there someone in the group that would like to read this quote from Cosmic Fire? Okay, I will read it for the group. It must.
I will read it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Group liberation will be achieved when the relationship of the negative form to the positive spirit is grasped. It must be ever borne in mind that each plane and each subplane, which is numerically allied, is embodying the same type of force and is consequently the same polarity. Again, the astral plane and the Buddhic plane are related, as we already know. The astral is negative in relation to the Buddhic plane. When the polarity of the different plane is known, when the polarity of the subplane is comprehended, and when the interaction between them, corresponding cosmic planes, is grasped, then will man be free, but not before. When the polarity of the ethers to each other and their relationship to the whole is comprehended, human evolution will have run its course. A master has solved the problem of electrical phenomena in the three worlds, hence his freedom. Further, when the relationship of the negative form to the positive spirit is grasped, and their joint connection with the cosmic entities who indwell the whole system is somewhat apprehended, group liberation will be achieved.
The key idea here is the polarity of the ethers, and that would really include the relationship of the rays and the planes, knowing that the rays express the second aspect of deity and the planes the third aspect. And we've presented some of these images previously, but we're going to be using them in a slightly different context. So here you have a design with the esoteric colors of the rays and the planes. And all of our previous work that I have emphasized the importance of understanding your six-fold ray chart. And if not your six-fold ray chart, at least your personality and your soul ray, what color ray they represent and what note. And depending on what a numerical relationship those rays are, like ray 1 would be red, Vulcan or Uranus. Ray 2 would be Venus and Neptune, just as an example. So all this previous discussion about the rays is important because it leads to liberation. Because when you can link up your personality and soul ray and they fuse together, and you can project your personality and soul ray up to the monadic level, you have won your liberation. And it's all done through polarity. And we're going to go into that in detail. DK has stated that the rays and the planes are spherical. And this would be like a cross section of the planes on the right and the rays on the left. It's the same dynamic we just shared, only now we're bringing it into more of a three-dimensional relationship, because the rays and the planes are not static. They are ever evolving. Okay, here's through Photoshop, I've taken the previous image that you just saw and I've rotated it clockwise. And you can begin to understand how the study of color, and this is equally true of sound, there are basic principles that you have to understand about your own place on the path. But once you dive in to your auric field and all of the different rays, they're in a state of motion. They're spherical and they're rotating. And I'm trying to the best of my ability here, very inadequately, to build steps so that some of the videos that we see later will have more meaning. Okay, now you're looking at, again, the 7 rays as a composite. In other words, I took the previous image and in Adobe Photoshop, this is not any great talent of mine, technically I spun it, and this is what it looks like. It is absolutely exquisite. It shows all the 7 rays, but it shows them in a spherical, vortical state of motion. And this is all important because as we enter the gates and the door of initiation, we are not stepping off one plane or ray into another ray or plane. It's like an electric and magnetic ascending spiral. And we don't step up, we're drawn up, because when a vortex is created, you create a vacuum. And a vacuum is abhorred by nature. And so something has to fill the center of the vacuum. And what fills it is where your attention is. If your attention is aligning with your personality ray, your soul ray, the ray of the group, the planetary life. Energy follows thought. In your intention lies the key to liberation. So what you're looking at right here is 2025 Jacob's Ladder. It's a reoccurring cyclic spiral that often we're on the outer periphery of, and every initiation draws us closer to the center. Okay, now we're going to actually see an animation, a short animation that shows the rays rotating clockwise and the planes counterclockwise. And in previous comments, you'll recall that this is how we go from pure energy as it rotates around a vacuum into its petal formation. In other words, all through the New Age and even in the esoteric books, you're taught that this chakra or spiritual center has so many petals. That is only relatively true. That's because that center is spinning, and as it's reduced to visibility by, let's say, some clairvoyant, you see that it begins to geometrically form into something that's more like the base of the spine would be 4 petals, because it works with 4 different types of energy. Solar plexus, maybe 6, and then on up through all the centers. So just ease into this next animation and try to get a sense of the fact that you are not sitting here in your chair. You are in space, out of space, both rotating in multiple directions with multiple forces. So take a deep breath and use this next animation as a little meditation. one of the most difficult things to visualize on the spiritual path is how energy from higher levels that are like streams, they're streams of force. And as they cool, they begin and they make their descent down into the material planes. This is where you begin to see the petal formation, or what is called spiritual and divine geometry. And if you observe this animation multiple times, you'll see there's quite a few things more happening than you can first see. And I'm going to bring this a little further along because there's something I want to point out. Okay, do you see in the middle, there's these little striations passing back and forth? Every vortex is made because of two different types of energy that come together and they meet, much like a weather system, hot and dry, cold and wet. And each one of those weather systems tries to cancel each other out, and they can't because they're both too powerful and too dynamic. So what happens is they begin to turn upon themselves and they create the funnel, or in many cases, a tornado or a hurricane, where you see tremendous sucking power. There is your vacuum. We as disciples must learn to use this simple analogy in our meditations. It's not like we're creating it. We're setting up the dynamic in which you set in motion or you bring together certain ray and plane energies, and they automatically coalesce around each other. You can see this in the whirlpools of a stream, in water. If you throw a rock into it, into a still pond or a lake. So those electrical discharges are attempting to neutralize, to uh, cause each part of the dynamic to submit, but they can't. And paradoxically, both of these are needed for initiation to take place. In other words, somebody might say, well, isn't this holding initiation back, this point of tension? In certain circumstances, if you're working through the lowest subplanes, it can hold you back. It can be a prison. In other words, if I took this vortex that you're looking at right here, and I drew a funnel coming out of the bottom, and that could be considered like the involutionary elemental side of the vortex. But if I flipped it over and put like a funnel coming from the top of the center of this rotating mass, you'd see that the vortex is reversed. The vortex in the center, and here's where words are very difficult and fail. It pulls energy from the higher centers, which causes initiation. If your attention is downward in view, it will pull like a vacuum cleaner. It'll pull all the crud around you up into that vortex, and it'll end up into your aura. So we've discussed this quite a few times, and this is preparatory, because now we're going to go back into not just what we have to do individually, what we have to do as a group, but what our planetary logos is attempting to do with the other sacred logoi, often referred to as heavenly men, and then ultimately the sun itself. But would somebody like to read this additional quote? This quote from Cosmic Fire is on the very next page of the quote we earlier read, where it said, when you know the polarity of the ethers, the rays in the planes and their subplanes and subrays, not just 7 rays, 7 planes, there's actually more to that. But would anybody like to read this?
Yeah, I've raised my hand. Hi, Duane.
Thank you. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much.
Perhaps in considering this abstruse matter, it may help to clarify the point of view if it is recollected that man is essentially positive in his own nature, but his vehicles are negative. Hence, he is the central unit of positive electricity that draws and holds to him atoms of an opposite polarity. When he has merged and blended the two poles and produced light of a definite magnitude during any particular incarnation, which magnitude is settled by the ego prior to incarnation, then obscuration takes place. The electrical manifestation burns up and destroys the medium, and the light goes out.
I'm not holding it.
What we call
Somebody's going to have to disconnect.
What we call physical death ensues, for the electrical current burns up that which had caused objectivity and that which shone. Let us carry this idea further and realize that these units called men, who are positive as regards their own vehicles, are but the negative cells in the body of a heavenly man, and are held within his sphere of influence by the force of his electrical life. Bear in mind again that the heavenly men are thus positive as regards the lesser lives, but in their turn are negative as regards the greater life that contains them.
Excellent, Michael. Thank you so much. So let's explore the rays and planes in a little more detail. So what we have here is a schematic or a design, a symbol that shows on the right the planes and on the left the rays. Again, and I apologize for being repetitive, but it's so important. Until a ray passes through a plane or a ray and plane come together, you cannot have initiation. And the ray is usually considered the a positive aspect electrically, and the planes the negative. However, and to go back to that previous comment where DK talked about the polarity between the different ethers, if you look at this, you'll see on the left we have the 7 rays, and we have a large number 1. That's ray 1, and it goes down through all the 7 rays. Ray 1 is positive, but even though we generically say the rays are all positive to the planes, this is not necessarily true when you get down to refining this relationship. On the second ray of the descent of the seven rays, you see next to the 2, slightly to the left, a minus sign, because ray 1 is positive, ray 2 is more receptive, and then down through the rest. Ray 3 is more positive, ray 4 receptive, 5 positive, 6 receptive, and 7 positive. So when you make the comparison between the subplanes, now I want you to look where it says number 1 power on the left at the top, and there's a little red dot. Okay, that's the first ray. I want you to follow just slightly to the right of that, and almost entirely obscured, and I apologize, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, ray 1 is considered a positive ray, but it has 7 subplanes. Ray 2, which is a negative or more feminine ray, I don't even like the word negative, because if you don't understand it electrically, it can become out of context and have a negative connotation. Ray 2, love, the blue ray, again, following it down to the next one. It has 7 subplanes, and you can go all the way down. So you really have not just 7 combination of the rays, but 49. Now shift to the side where it's more bluish, where it says the 7 planes. The logoic is considered negative because it's a plane. But as you go down through them, you see that the monadic is positive, the atmic is masculine, excuse me. It reverses itself. And if you go to the full right, you'll see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in miniature over to the right, indicating that they will alternate also. So the rays and the planes are 2 different types of quality of energy and force, but they have built into them a resident receptive electrical faculty. In other words, if you took your hands and put them in front of you with your fingers outstretched, this is what you're looking at right here. But if you take your fingers and you draw your hands together, you'll note that the fingers fit in like a composite. And this is how the rays and the planes, even though separate aspects of deity, they reveal a secret that numerically and through color and sound, the subplanes can fuse and create a whole different dynamic. I apologize if this seems a little abstruse, and I'm doing my best to make something somewhat complicated simple in a visual way. Okay, let's go to, okay, here's another picture of the 7 rays, starting with red in the center, ray 1, blue, ray 2, green, ray 3, ray 4, yellow, ray 5, orange, ray 6, rose, and ray 7, violet. But you'll notice that as it expands and gets out towards the outer periphery, like where the 7th ray is, it begins to turn into geometric forms. And triangles can exist on any level, even cosmic levels, but they're most easily recognized in the early stages of initiation by their geometric and design signatures. Okay, so now we're going to go to this this chart that we've used so many times. Everybody should have it memorized. And if you don't, print it out, go into Makara and put it on your wall, because DK says the most important thing that you can know about the spiritual path is where you are situated on the spiritual path. And that's not an easy task. And charts like this can give you information that will have to be experienced directly, because we're talking about states of consciousness, not nifty little symbols. But what I wanted to point out here is we just fairly exhaustively outlined how the rays and the planes interact. When you undergo initiation, the same electrical and magnetic dynamic takes place. Prior to the first initiation, the base of the spine and the sacral center are considered positive. Why are they positive? Because they're radiating dynamically so much energy on an elemental level. How do we bring initiation about? By taking this triangle between the base of the spine, the throat, and the sacral center, and rotating spiritual energy. And when enough of the throat energy, which is more advanced than the sacral, has done its work, the polarity will shift. Now the sacral center, after the first initiation, becomes negative in that it's like quiescent, and the throat is now positive, whereas prior to the first initiation, the throat was quiescent. And I'm speaking in general terms here just for convenience. Then you shift from the left side, which is all the masculine initiations, over to the right side. And again, I apologize for the repetition, but when you can create a triangle of light and circulate energy from the base of the spine, the solar plexus, the heart, and then back to the base of the spine, you are setting yourself up for the second initiation. Many people are doing variations of meditations like this, and many people don't have to always have the technical understanding to know that they're moving forward on the path. This just allows you to step back and see it like through the lower mind. So what happens? The solar plexus is positive. This is like humanity prior to the first initiation, working through the lower subplanes of the astral, and the energy is negative. And when that energy circulates, and I might add here that as the triangle builds up speed and the energy circulates around the 3 points with greater and greater accuracy and speed, what do you have? You have a vortex. Because what you're really looking at, these discs are really vortices, just like we saw in a few slides prior to this. So what happens to the heart? It flips. It goes from being in a negative state to now being in a positive state, and the solar plexus follows and reverses its polarity, and all these astral influences that hold people back and create all kinds of problems, they go into quiescence. And as DK said about initiation, a lot of the problems we have die of attrition as we learn to meditate, study the teachings, and most importantly, serve. Because when you're serving, you're not putting yourself as the primary recipient of any benefaction, just helping other people, building bridges, doing goodwill. Okay, so we're not going to labor that too much. This is all advanced material so that when we get to Justin's magnificent rendering of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, you are going to be impacted by hundreds and hundreds of the most arcane and esoteric symbols through advanced scientific theories and through occult understanding. Okay, so just before we get into Justin's video, I want to again emphasize the opening quote that all creative art will be fostered by this training, and the new art of the future in all departments of creativity will be rapidly developed as the training proceeds. The unfoldment of the sense of vision and of the sense of synthesis through visualization will lead to a sense of livingness in form. So you're not just passively watching these animations. You are, to the degree that's creative for you, you are participating in them. These images are very powerful. They will stimulate your centers. And that's why I often throw out a cautionary note. If some of these images or animations cause you any discomfort, just close your eyes and go with the flow of the music. Another symbol that we're going to define is a group symbol in the next image. Anyway, symbols that awaken the intuition. More and more as the race progresses, symbols will be used and words less employed. A symbol stands for a thought, an idea, and expresses in one definite form what many words would be needed to define. A symbol makes its appeal through the eye and not the ear, and directly tends to develop the imagination, that power which exists on astral levels, and directly leads to the development of the intuition. I don't know how many of you were fortunate enough to attend the recent University of the Seven Rays annual conference in person at the Franciscan Center in Arizona, but it was very, very powerful. And DK goes into individual symbols, but he also goes into group symbols. And what you're looking at here is taken from one of the Dina books, and it's called Formula One, or Integration of the Group Astral Body. And at this conference, you could see this wonderful academic lower mind dynamic laid out with such precision and beauty, and all this warmth, this occult warmth of the heart coming from people's emotions. Because when the formula for group integration says new astral conditioning, it's not about just feeling good because you're out of work and you're with your friends. It's about the fire that the group's heart radiates and that you enter into the degree that you're comfortable with. And DK goes into it in great detail, and this is an image of what he describes, but I recommend, if anybody's interested, you can go into Dina 2 364, the 365, and read it, because it's very powerful. And this is what he says about the formulas. There's actually 7 formulas, and they each have images and symbols that correspond to them. Would anybody like to read this formula defined? Okay, formulas defined.
I can read, Duane, if you want.
Okay, please, thank you.
Geometrical forms lying behind all exoteric manifestations. Formulas defined. 1. They are second-rate presentations of soul ideas. Essentially, they are geometrical forms lying behind all exoteric manifestations. Even presented as words or phrases, they are susceptible of being reduced to definite forms. They are building patterns. 2. They express significance and intention. To the disciple and the initiate who employs them correctly and with understanding, they indicate energy direction as a definite part of the creative work which emanates constantly from the world of souls, from the kingdom of God, and from the hierarchy. They are rightly oriented energy patterns. 3. They are related to the world of meaning and are the esoteric symbols to be found behind all exoteric forms. They veil that which is in process of being revealed. They are revealing patterns.
Beautiful, thank you. So now we're going to move into Justin's wonderful video that can't be done justice without actually seeing it. And I just would point out that you can go to his monadic media, and this is the link if you want to copy that. If somebody would like to put that in the chat, maybe Michael. And the one he's dealing with today is on fire. And I've forgotten the exact name of it. Rose, are you still with us?
Yes, it's the one that says fire. I don't know the exact name either. I've forgotten at the moment. But if you click that and Michael Crow, you can maybe put the direct link But if you click that link, it's like the second or third one over on the right.
Yeah, Justin isn't with us, is he?
No, it's something
Okay.
occultism, a new fire, something like that.
Yes. Okay, excellent.
But I
So,
wanted to
yes,
say if anyone has difficulty viewing this video through the Zoom, you can click that link, and then it will I think I have it right here. You can play it right from Zoom. Oh, disregard that link I just sent. Okay.
I posted it, and if it skips at all, I have it open here, so I can also
Awesome.
take over if it stutters at all. So
Feel free to take notes, and we're going to open the group up for any sharing or any questions after the video. It's 38 minutes long. This is a real stretch for all of us because the little Mickey Mouse ones that I present are like 3 minutes long, maybe 4 or 5 at the max. But this is, to me, the embodiment of training through the arts, through technical science, and being a third generation theosophist, Justin Wilkinson. And I might add that he and Amber, his wife, now have a son called Theo. So we have a fourth generation theosophist coming down the pike. And the expectations are otherworldly when he gets to be old enough to get on his computer and get into his deep meditation. Okay, so let's think positive that this is going to play from beginning to end.
In this video, we will explore where cutting-edge science meets occultism, an ongoing, ever-evolving theme that helps to demystify the divine nature of reality and reveal the science of spirit. This type of inquiry will also expand our perspective of life and help us relate that which is above to that which is below, which really comes from discovering the link between that which is within and that which is without. This will naturally bring us to the inner spiritual organ, the Antakarana, or rainbow bridge as it's often called, which connects our higher and lower self together through a stream of light constructed creatively by abstract thought during deep and active meditation. This will lead us to a broader understanding of energy in motion and the nature of thought forms through electric spin. We will also investigate some of the magnetic secrets of nature and incredible technologies emerging from these discoveries. All of this will allow us to better develop our intuition and achieve a better sense of the realized purpose within this world of living conscious substance. And thus, continuing this ongoing theme of bridging, in many ways, this video's purpose is to act as a segue between our prior series, The Electric Bridge, and our next series, Dynamic Symbols. This is occultism and the new fire. Imagine for a moment the smallest thing possible, a subatomic particle. And now imagine the largest, the entire universe. The question is, what do these two extremes of size, the biggest and the smallest, have in common? Well, the answer, according to the esoteric philosophy, is that neither of them actually exist. at least not in the way we traditionally think. They are concepts on which the modern understanding of reality is based, and so they belong to the world of illusion and the age of measurement. This statement might seem like an oversimplification, but we shall elaborate on it. In Helena Blavatsky's words, it is on the doctrine of the elusive nature of matter and the infinite divisibility of the atom that the whole science of occultism is built. Esotericism seeks to unveil the deeper side of nature. Naturally, this includes a more metaphysical approach to looking at reality. Therefore, our intention here is to go beyond the threshold of what our ordinary senses reveal to us. Esotericism states that underlying both matter and apparently empty space is a more subtle or rarefied form of matter, the ether as it's often called, and the atomic matter of science is a comparatively gossamer structure in this very substantial medium that is far more elusive than any form of matter known today by material science. Being an intersection between the tangible and intangible, one could say that it is the medium or fluid whereby energy becomes matter and matter becomes energy. This might be another oversimplification, yet still gets an intuitive point across. And if we were able to examine this ether objectively, we would find that, in turn, it has its own structure, which is divisible, and beneath which lies a subtler yet denser medium still, and so on ad infinitum. This is one of the great paradoxes of esoteric teachings. The inner spiritual realms are often portrayed as rarefied and more subtle, fiery, and even formless from the human perspective. Yet they are in another sense, more dense and substantial. And to ponder this interesting conundrum can transform the way we conceive of life on the inner planes. From the perspective of more refined, successive states of consciousness, every plane of existence and subplane therein is an ever more focused point of concentration. It was over a century ago that science disregarded the idea of the luminous ether. Yet with modern advancements, it is now, in many ways, coming full circle, even if it is not yet fully recognized by academia. The discovery, or shall we say rediscovery, of the ether will be like a window into the more metaphysical dimensions of life. This will eventually create a new age for science and ultimately a whole paradigm shift for humanity, as it will truly unlock many of life's secrets and help to demystify the divine nature of reality. In parallel with the discovery of the ether is also the new understanding of the dynamics and origin of consciousness. This new awareness is emerging within all aspects of human life, and as both come more to the forefront, we will begin to see the signs of this new paradigm shift. The relation between consciousness and the ether is unfolding through what is being called biofield science. As this develops further, the materialistic model of life will dissolve and a more refined and advanced metaphysical model will develop in its place. Thus, the universe will be seen more as a living organism rather than just a mechanism. Initially, consciousness will be seen as fundamental and emergent. Then, eventually, it will be understood as a fundamental aspect of the universe itself, like energy and matter, yet the balancing force between these two opposites. being the primary generative force in nature, in time, electricity will be seen and known as the bridge between the outer world of matter and the inner world of energy, where consciousness is always relating the two. As we can see, in the grand scheme of things, most still remains unknown to us. Yet through occultism and this new fire, we can discover much of that which lies just beyond the threshold of our tangible senses, inching us ever closer to the eternal. Let's now see what this holistic perspective looks like. The essence of this transformation is in fact captured by the statement, "The beginning is near." This expresses the zeitgeist of our times, a transition period between the age of atomism and the age of organism, the latter being a time when the relationships between all the parts will be seen like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle, revealing a greater picture of universal reality. Hierarchies of organisms, with each organism a host to the organs and organelles below, and itself an organ and an organelle of that which is above. And what these hierarchies all have in common, as we shall explore later, is that they are all expressions of the divine imagination. But for now, science is in the last throes of atomism, the age of measurement, and the reductionist way of thinking that sees all manifestation as the chance arrangement of fundamental particles of matter, with consciousness as a lucky yet purposeless byproduct. And so the quantum physicist, chemist, biologist, and psychologist stand between this world and the next. Yet without the equipment required to discover the finer levels of matter, and so records only what can be directly measured. The conclusions reached are driven by denser matter, and therefore not surprising. At the very small, the laws of cause and effect seem to break down, and nature operates in a very strange and different manner to the way it behaves in the macrocosm. However, according to the occult truism, as above, so below, the world of the very small operates in a similar way to the very large. Everything cycles in and out of incarnation under natural law: stars, planets, humans, and even so-called fundamental particles. It is just that at the subatomic level, the elemental lives incarnate, die, and reincarnate in a time frame that corresponds to their size, each incarnation lasting around a millionth or even billionth of a second. This creates the illusion of a nonsensical realm of probabilities and uncertainty, where things pop in and out of existence for no apparent reason. However, when the law of cycles with its manvantara, or activity, and pralaya, or rest, is taken into account, the solar system model of the atom and its orbiting electrons, though no longer used in physics, still reflects the reality of the microcosmic world most accurately. This model now brings us to our next section, the model which connects us to the inner worlds and the inner life of spirit. So where is all this going? It's leading us to a bridge of fire between this world and the next. The bridge opens up at the subatomic level and is one on which both the occultist and the electrical scientist stand. It provides the means whereby the work of each of them will be mutually empowering in the cause of world redemption and spiritual growth. So looking first at the bridging work of the occultist, we know that the technique is to align the personality or lower self with the soul or higher self and become sensitive to its impression. It involves engendering a magnetic aura on which the highest impressions can play. The life thread that connects the soul to the personality is like an electric current with the resulting magnetism in the aura of the personality radiating and spiraling around it. In the East, it has been called the sutratma, and in the West, the silver cord. Electricity and magnetism are two sides of the same coin. Electromagnetism, beautifully demonstrated on the physical plane in the way that wherever an electric current is found, there is also a magnetic field wrapped around it like a corkscrew. This was explored extensively in our series, The Electric Bridge. The electrical engineer and a replicator of many of Tesla's experiments, Eric Dollard, described this relationship as electricity always trying to move from the inner to the outer planes, while the magnetism coiled around it is always trying to move from the outer to the inner planes. This is also true with the electric current we call the life thread that anchors the incarnated soul on the physical plane, and the magnetic field, the consciousness thread that is slowly weaved around and back up toward the soul. The two of them fusing together as one electromagnetic bridge, the Antakarana. And so a magnetic field spirals around the life thread, forming a vortex in the matter of the subplanes that divide the personality and the soul, which is to be found on the higher mental plane. To use the words available to us, the soul's energy substance pours down this vortex, impacting the head center, influencing the lower centers, and illuminating our consciousness. At the center of this light in the head, a point of dark blue electric light emerges, and the bridge of consciousness that has now been formed between the two worlds stands illuminated and revealed. Through this connection, the energy of the soul and the personality forces can be synthesized together before flowing into the physical body. And this connection also allows the spiritual initiate to access the inner worlds. This is described in the Blue Books as the funnel or the channel for the sound, the trumpet through which the escaping Aum can pass. In this way, the occultist forms an electromagnetic vortex that bridges between two worlds, bringing the fire of each together to carry on the fusion process that will result in the one unified world of the future. Speaking of the future, nature is revealing her secrets to us, and when utilized for the good of the whole, great promise can emerge from such findings. So having looked at the vortical bridging system between the soul and the personality, we can now consider the work of pioneering scientists and engineers whose experimentation with new energy sources promise to form a similar type of bridge to the world that lies immediately beyond the world of the five senses. Not the world of conscious living souls per se, but in this case, the etheric counterpart of the physical plane. The generation of a magnetic aura with which we're familiar in esoteric work occurs in this instance when certain metallic powders are ground down to a very small size of between 3 and 12 nanometers. These materials have a beautiful honeycomb lattice, and when energy is applied, vortices start to appear in the spaces in the lattice, curling magnetic whirlwinds that vibrate together in unison. Even more strangely, they behave collectively like magnetic monopoles. The vortices have only one pole, a north or a south. This means that the group vortex has a viable magnetic charge. In other words,
Okay, I guess we have a technical glitch here.
No, what happened? Did you
Didn't
press
do
stop?
anything.
Or it just froze?
It just froze.
What time was that on? Do you know?
What time it froze?
Yeah, let me see.
It just froze a minute ago at roughly
Yeah.
2.
Take your mouse, Duane, and hover it over the video. It's about halfway through. You want to know the minutes into the video.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Find
see.
the
Okay.
minutes and then I'll start it from here.
Do you see it, Rose? I don't. I'm hovering.
It doesn't show the minutes. It just
On the
the
bar.
bar looks about halfway through. Hover the mouse over it, Duane.
Oh,
What does it
if
say?
you got
What's that say?
1931.
I can't read that.
Hold on. I'll start from here. I'm gonna.
Can you read that, Rose?
If I share,
19?
you're gonna have to restart your share, just so you know.
Okay, Rose, don't disappear.
Over here.
I've got 1838.
Buddy.
these materials have a beautiful honeycomb lattice. And when energy is applied, vortices start to appear in the spaces in the lattice, curling magnetic whirlwinds that vibrate together in unison. Even more strangely, they behave collectively like magnetic monopoles. The vortices have only one pole, a north or a south. This means that the group vortex has a viable magnetic charge. In other words, it produces energy. This phenomena, known as asymmetric magnetism, seems to take place naturally within this size range. Asymmetric magnetism has also been discovered in enzymes, all of which have at least one of their dimensions in this size range. As nature's catalysts, enzymes speed up chemical reactions in cells through energy manipulation between the etheric and physical counterparts of the cell. This enables the efficient building of ordered structures in random chemical environments, which clearly demonstrates the universal creative intelligence of energy, force, and substance when brought into manifestation. They accomplish their work through asymmetric magnetism. The north and south poles of their inner structure are separated. One monopole is on the physical plane, and the other now appears on the etheric plane, from which electric charge is drawn down to bridge the gap. In this way, enzymes are able to localize copious amounts of energy through cooperative group oscillation. The electric charge also carries information from the etheric double of the physical structure, organizing the building of physical forms in line with its inner archetype. Because the experimentation with new forms of energy by a number of scientific and engineering groups around the world is emulating the way nature works, it is likely that a breakthrough in relatively free and limitless energy is on the horizon. Humanity's future growth includes embracing and demonstrating the natural and fully efficient aspects that nature reveals for the overall betterment of mankind. All information pertaining to nature's building patterns and processes is held in the ether and transmitted across the threshold between the visible and the invisible realms through an electrical condensation process based around the geometry of the hexagon. The hexagon is the blueprint for the archetype of matter. In the Alice Bailey teachings, we read that already the electrification of the planet is one of the things which is inaugurating the new age and which will aid in bringing about the revelation of the presence of the soul. Before long, this intensification will become so great that it will materially assist in the rending of the veil which separates the astral plane from the physical plane. The dividing etheric web will be shortly dissipated, and this will permit a more rapid inflow of light. The light from the astral plane, known as a starry or radiant substance, and the light of the planet itself will be more closely blended, and the result upon humanity and upon the three subhuman kingdoms in nature cannot be overemphasized. Vortical energy systems are also the way telepathy works between two minds in resonance with one another. The thought of the transmitter traveling as a spiraling helix of energy and translating back into a thought pattern upon impact within the aura of the recipient. These literally electrifying findings, both in nature and technology, correspond wonderfully to the cooperative oscillations that are set up through group meditations, the Triangles Network being an outstanding example. Within this lattice of light, thousands of people around the world subjectively link up through focused intention and harmonic vibration, allowing light, love, and power to pour through the magnetic vortices that are thereby generated. The ramifications of this process, in tandem with electrical energy extracted from the ether, are huge. Through this, the connection between the world of the occult and the world of science will really start to become more apparent. And yet, as we evolve intellectually and therefore create new technology, it is vital that our moral and spiritual evolution is also fostered so as to not offset the balance between them. To further show the similarity of process between the vanguard of electrical science and esotericism, here is an image of the triangular geometry that makes up the lattice of the magnetic powders many researchers into new energy forms are using. They are a class of exotic magnets collectively known as spin ice. The term arises from the fact that their low temperature properties are closely related to those of crystalline water ice, hence their beautifully descriptive and accurate name. Spin ice has networks of corner-sharing tetrahedra, which induces spin about their axis, and this movement prevents them from freezing completely. In the laboratory, this spin can be manipulated to generate one resonant system of whirling vortices. They behave like a group magnet with only one pole, and this creates a bridge to its etheric counterpart via which the new electric fire is brought onto the physical plane. The similarity between the properties of spin ice and crystalline water is not confined to water at very low temperatures. As also explored in the Electric Bridge series, a fourth state of water has recently been discovered. It occurs at the surface of water and has the properties of a liquid crystal with a negative charge. While this charge is thought to come from various light sources, such as the sun and the infrared light that is all around us, which are both true, it also comes from the inner etheric realm, and it is the way organisms receive genetic information from their archetypal structures in the inner worlds. The water surrounding all the DNA within the physical body of a life form is in the fourth state of water, as discovered by Jared Pollack and his team. And this enables the storing of information relayed to it from the etheric body of the organism, much as a computer stores memory. Changes in the etheric field thereby control all the biological processes of DNA known to science with regard to the construction, maintenance, and the mutation of the organism's physical form. Water is a condensation of the ether. It is clear from the above that we are approaching closer and closer to an electric revolution in the way we view the universe and its functioning systems. This will eventually reveal the true atom of occultism, beautifully described by Rudolf Steiner as coagulated electricity. Here, a clue is provided to understanding the realm of the very small, to moving beyond the atomistic thinking of the current scientific era and understanding H.P. Blavatsky's comment about the elusive nature of matter and the infinite divisibility of the atom. But we can go one stage further than this to the root cause of all electric phenomena, the divine imagination. As Steiner commented at the beginning of the last century, atoms, as scientists think about them, are part real and part man-made in the world of thought. We are familiar with the truism, as a man thinketh, so is he. And this is all the more powerful when it comes to group thinking, especially given the unfolding energies within the dawning of this new age for humanity. As a group of powerful minds think, so it becomes. As we know, spirit and matter are one and the same thing, just at different levels of vibration. And the atomic particles of the future are created as directed thought causes, the splitting of the spirit and its translation into matter. Another way to understand this is that the whole physical plane is a direct reflection of the mental plane, and not just within nature itself and all natural processes, but also man-made creations. This is by virtue of the fact that we are co-creators within a conscious creative energy field of substance and responsive vibration, all endowed by the greater divine imagination behind it all, the mind of God. So, in other words, there really is no objective reality out there separate from ourselves. An interesting analogy on this process is given by the mathematician and physicist George Under. When you have a piece of glass and you shatter it with a hammer, then you have splinters. But of course, it would be utter nonsense to assert that the glass consists of splinters. Window panes made out of safety glass have an inner pattern which can be seen with polarized lenses. You thus see the future particles into which the glass will shatter, so that in the event of an accident, there would not be too many long and dangerous splinters. One can see the future splinters, the future particles of glass, and in the like manner, one can see in crystalline matter the future particles or atoms. The whole mystery of space-time originates in this process. Again, in the words of Rudolf Steiner, space is something that originates together with matter when spirit is shattered and thereby goes over into material existence. This is why we read in the book Telepathy and the Etheric Vehicle by Alice Bailey that the universe isn't really expanding. It's an illusory effect of humanity's expanding consciousness. Space itself is the relatively static fabric within the etheric web of a yet unknown cosmic entity. So the interesting conclusion is that, to a degree, science is creating the reality that it thinks it is discovering. Such is the power of thought forms and imagination in the world of illusion. Even the technical tools and machines that it builds are invested with something of the human spirit expressed in them, which again conditions the elemental lives they are built of, the way that they behave, and the things they discover. This is a radical and profound concept that will both revolutionize the world of thinking intellectuals and hence lead them into a more intuitive approach, yet also at the same time create great conflict in the minds of many thinkers who will find it difficult to grasp the new reality. For this reason, when free energy from the etheric realm becomes a proven fact, it will undermine the laws of known physics, and a new and greater phase of reality will then be created. Whatever those new theories formulated are, they will mold the behavior of the matter of the future. We see here the responsibility of esotericists and occultists alike to bring the light, love, and power of divinity into the equation and become intelligent collaborators in this process of spiritualizing matter. It is a discipleship responsibility to ensure that future creations are in alignment with the divine plan. As it is known within the ageless wisdom, The work of humanity is to infuse the world with the qualities of the plan to the degree that at the end of its current phase of evolution, the Earth itself will become the archetypal atom of the next Manvantara, or planetary cycle. It will then condense into a type of atom that carries the entire spiritual essence for the next Manvantara, or evolutionary cycle. Held on the archetypal level, it will, at the appropriate time, burst forth into small, manifold atoms on which the next planetary manifestation will be built. This, of course, is eons of time ahead. And yet, in the final analysis, what really is time? This expands the idea of reincarnation to a far grander level. As we stated earlier in the video, subatomic particles reincarnate every billionth of a second, the human soul reincarnates every century or so, and as just mentioned, the earthly soul reincarnates within these vast timescales measured in the billions of years. All the real occult atoms of which the new world is made will contain the essence of the qualities distilled from each, and all single lives and experiences in this world period, and the essential outstanding quality required is that of compassionate love, the essence of universal divine energy. How a world made of such atoms will be is a theme for deep meditation. This and many other things we will ponder much further in our next series, Dynamic Symbols, which is coming soon. So to help support our future content here on this channel, consider supporting us on Patreon. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Excellent. So now we're going to open it for any comments, any shares, any questions, and I appreciate all of your patience with our technical difficulties. Thank you, Michael, for jumping in.
Do you want to start your share again? While
Okay.
we wait for anybody who wants to say something.
Okay, can you see my,
Yeah, you just gotta go to yeah. Well, actually,
It's
you're
it's
seeing
the wrong it's the wrong one, Dwayne. You're sharing your you
presenter view
in
instead
share
of the other one.
and in share and go back to um,
you know,
PowerPoint.
you can hear me. That's really all that matters.
Well, you
I
have a
don't,
few more slides after this.
mm, actually, I think I'd rather just open it up than spend half an
Okay.
hour trying to figure out how to get back on. So we're opening the communications. If anybody would like to share on any part of this presentation, you can see how I tried to create
Chris,
somewhat of a foundation electrically.
So Dwayne, I was thinking about your slide about how the positive and the negative switch over. And I thought this was a perfect little film because the asymmetric magnetism explains it. The North and the South poles separate, and one becomes etheric. And I was like, that's it. So if you just go back into that movie, clip out that little section, and that explains what you were trying to do with your graphs earlier.
Excellent. Thank you. That's why I had Justin as backup.
Yes, it was perfect. And I also thought was interesting about the hexagon. And, he has the symbol of the honeycomb, was behind him the whole time he was speaking. And I was thinking about something I read the other day with the bees, because physically they say the bee shouldn't be able to fly. And they've been saying that for years. But they finally discovered how it flies. And it's kind of amazing because they said that it's actually the sound vibration of its wings that moves it. It's the sound vibration. So I kept thinking about
Excellent.
Ohm. And anyway, this film was great. Thank you for sharing this. I think it was a very good use of time, Dwayne. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I read a scientific article a couple of months ago that outlined a new type of bacteria that they've discovered that lives off of electricity. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. That electricity is such a great gift on so many different levels. And when you get into the study of quantum mechanics and you get into the understanding of plasma, ooh, it gets really creative because we're all in this soup, and we, if we direct our intention properly, can farm light and sound and all types of attributes that may seem to be out of our reach. Fascinating. Any additional comments or questions? Thank you. It's a
Hi,
lot
Dwayne.
to
Hi,
go
hi,
ahead,
Dwayne. I
Jessica.
everything was very interesting, and I was reading the Raja Yoga book, and in that book it talks about how electricity can move through our nervous system. And so, with that being said, I understand through my meditations that if I can pull in electrical currents from the outside in through my nervous system, I can bring it through and then I get like a tingling in my fingers to try to conduct some sort of electrical, but I don't know because my eyes are closed. So I just know what I feel. But I thought that
Excellent.
that was really interesting.
Well, yes, these electrical forces pass down through the etheric and are grounded in the physical through the nadis, which are these little etheric channels. So thank you, Jessica. That was excellent. Yes,
That was
the,
that was
go ahead.
Selena. Jessica still has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alina, thank you.
Selena.
Selena. Thank you so much, Selena.
Jessica.
Okay, I just posted this link. I don't know if you've heard about this, but physicists prove long-held theory that light can be made from nothingness of vacuum. This is from 3 days ago. Classical physics predicts that light beams pass through each other undisturbed, but quantum mechanics holds that even when what we know as is vacuum is always brimming with fleeting particles which pop in and out of existence, causing light to be scattered. And Justin said in the wonderful video that things popping in and out of existence for no apparent reason is now being proven by science, which I feel like is a very exciting forward-moving momentum of when he said the last throes of science based on measurements. And he mentioned going into physical form perhaps out of vacuum. And so I just wanted to share that exciting development, which I thought related with this.
Excellent, excellent share. Yes, because of our limited view, we call it magic when things appear out of an apparent nothingness. But the beauty of this animation, this video, and the Ageless Wisdom teachings is that it focuses so much on what's behind everything. And when you get into Cosmic Fire and H.P. Blavatsky's works, they're talking about Fohat, cosmic electricity that comes down like a lightning bolt. And the further it comes down, these streamers begin to narrow and lose their potency. And that you could actually see Jacob's ladder as an electrical flash that the very tips of which are down here in the material plane, and occultly through the inner dimensions, we need to work our way back to the source. Excellent. Any additional comments?
Yes, I wanted to add a comment on the significance of the inner intelligence of the rays and the planes. That without that inner intelligence and the work of the Davis and the Dianis, the exquisite orders wouldn't happen. So, as much as the video animation was inclusive, some aspects, such as the willingness of a ray to curve and go into a cooperative archetype rather than just fly out in space, I think is significant and important for us to remember that there's a whole background system of cooperation that makes a system in a geometric form possible.
Absolutely. Excellent share. When a ray passes through a plane, it impregnates it. And whenever two or more energies, either two rays, two planes, or particularly a ray in a plane because they're opposite poles, a tremendous amount of light flashes forth. And this is an intimate part of initiation, is bringing together certain alchemical elements or energies to create that flash, the flash of intuition. And what happens is that when these two spherical lives meet and they join together, they generate so much light together that the form, the form that they had previously taken ruptures in the inner dwelling life is released. And this can happen to an atom, subatomic particles flashing in and out of incarnation, as Justin eloquently shared, or it can happen with your thinking. It can happen in your life in many different ways. We wonder what causes change. And this is why we need to work as a group to study the rays in the planes, because generically speaking, we may not have all built in all 7 of the rays, but by being exposed to those in the group who are perhaps have many similarities, have creative differences, and these creative differences can be revelatory. And it's sort of like being in a tumbler. You're bouncing up against many other personalities, many other developed soul bodies, and it refines all of us. And it doesn't always have to be a conscious realization. It can be humbling ourselves to listen to others and their important insights. So thank you. Any additional comments?
Well, there's a really long one from Anna. Anna, do you want to read that? Since it's your writing. I think usually you just type, so. Okay, I'll read it. When the bridge is built between the pituitary and the pineal gland, the central point between soul and personality gets activated and light is created. Sensitivity to impression involves the engendering of a magnetic aura upon which the highest impressions can play. The pineal gland becomes the center of a magnetic field which is set in motion. In the first place, by the power of visualization. In that area, the disciple draws pictures and paints scenes and thus acquires facility to see, in large and in detail, that which he desires and for which he intends to work. At that point, energy is gathered by the disciple and then directed with intention to one or other of the centers. This focused thought produces inevitable effects within the etheric body, and thus 2 aspects of the creative imagination are brought into play: the intuition and the creation of the thought forms embodying the work of divine purpose.
Excellent. Yes, there's a physiological correspondence to all of these higher forces and energies that are grounded in the physical body, and the pineal and pituitary are perhaps 2 of the most important. The idea of creating a magnetic aura in which the highest can play upon. Now that is a very powerful statement, that when we serve, when we study, when we meditate, we're creating a magnetic aura. And this is what DK meant by making your demand to the soul, to the hierarchy. And it may start as a personal want or need, but as it becomes refined through the stages of Raja Yoga, it becomes more impersonal. And so through seeing thought forms. And then at that third aspect of the 6 stages, you're driving it with the power of your will. First, your personal will, then later, the will of the soul. Then it merges into the will of the group. And then, of course, the will of the Logos, our planetary heavenly man. Yes, the centers. And when you look at these charts and tabulations and you watch these videos, your energy is being directed. And even though at the moment you may not get the full impact of that alignment, it will eventually lead to revelation. To go back to earlier quotes by the Tibetan, that a symbol veils, it summarizes many parts, many words. And I always like to say, if one picture is worth 1,000 words, what then shall we say about an animation that has thousands of pictures seamlessly put together for our exposure? And service is being exposed to the new and the different, the new and the creative. And that requires a lot of courage, because it's easy to get into your own little groove, and the groove can be good. It can be helpful. It can be doing service in many ways. But when you expose yourself to new scientific discoveries, new techniques of meditation, and that's what we've tried to present here, perhaps inadequately, not to change people's meditations, because if they hadn't been meditating and praying extensively, they wouldn't even be on this Zoom meeting, but maybe to modify it slightly, change it, fine tune it, to go back to the old Ferrari and rusty bike analogy that is, again, no doubt inadequate, but we are very powerful beings. We are co-creators, and we do it together. And just because we're isolated in our own little domicile somewhere around the planet, as we participate in these meditations and in these dialogues, you're demanding, and the demand can be subtle or it can be pronounced. The demand for more light, for more love, for more power, so that we can help counteract all these debilitating dynamics that are happening on the planet. I mean, we have several wars now steaming away, and the ability to shut down the dark forces requires individuals working through groups to bring in a greater point of tension for the good, for the beautiful, for the right, for true justice. And it can be very debilitating to watch the news and to listen to what's going on. And we have power as a group, and we need to continue with our work without being overly obsessive about where we are and what we're doing. And I know this sounds like a contradiction to what I just said. The mind, the lower mind, is a peculiar thing. It can be a great foundational jumpstart or scaffolding, evaluating where we are and what our capacities are. But if it becomes too powerful, then it actually begins to hinder their very forward motion of going to the higher subplanes of the mental. Any additional comments that anybody would like to make or share?
Yeah, I'd like to share something. I think
Please.
I want to go off, reiterate this one in that Anna just wrote. In that area, the disciple draws pictures and paints scenes and requires the facility to see in large and in detail that which he desires, and for which he intends to work. And in the video with Justin, the one that the part of it that really like jumped out for me is the latter part where he was dealing with the quantum aspect, that scientists or the observer of something actually is finding that which they think they're finding. So they're manifesting it simultaneously. And so, on a practical sense, something that you were just talking about, it's incredibly important right now because a lot of people have been hijacked, much like the time during Atlantis, and became vectors of propaganda, which is where they're infused with that which what they want to find, but it's not what they're looking for. It's something that has been pushed into them. And so they're creating, manifesting through vectors of propaganda, because we're both transmitters and receivers. We are manifesting this. And so the forces of darkness are actually impregnating people with all of this because that is what they want to manifest, and so they're utilizing these higher functions that we're consciously or not consciously aware that we have access to. And so I think that's the thing that jumps out for me, because I know that initially Silicon Valley and technology had this very, very extraordinarily positive movement. AI and all of the technology was for betterment of society, equalization of everything. And now you see how AI is being really taken over by controlling forces and used in military applications, because the designers of it, again, are manifesting that which they want to manifest or what they're trying to find, where we still have access to find what we want to find that's in more aligned with the divine plan. So again, really important not to become a vector of propaganda.
Beautifully shared. And I had the same impression from that part that Justin shared. It was like, I don't know how to put it in any different words, but it's like we're traveling over a bridge that we're actually creating. We're trying to get to someplace, but the bridge doesn't exist. It's our thoughts, it's our intention that is like co-creating. Anyway, thank you for sharing that, Michael, because I totally agree. Well, I think we've pretty well come to the end of our time, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate everyone suffering our uh, technical difficulties. That was a little beyond my pay grade, trying to put a 38-minute video in an older computer. But thank you, Michael. You stepped up and came in just at the right time. So if there aren't any additional comments, we will close.
Two more, one from Anna again,
Okay.
and one from Diana.
Yep.
Actually, Sylvia first says heliosoism versus glamour. Then Diana says, in a way, the symbol is an expression of the law of economy and the power of synthesis.
Excellent.
And then Anna shares again, Shambhala is one sense the monad to humanity's personality, and this increased stimulation will cause more conflict, but hasten growth in this critical cuspal period of the astrological ages. Hence, the added stimulation will be upon the new group of world servers to move to the later stages of the path of discipleship and up till the time of the third initiation, when from being receptive, the members will become the directors and creators of energies.
Excellent, Anna. That is so beautifully shared. Yes, the conflict relates directly to growth, and that's a difficult concept to wrap your mind around when you see what appears to be innocent people getting crushed and genocide taking place all over the planet in different ways. It's disheartening, but behind it is karma, and karma is teaching us something, even if we're not fully aware of it or at times cannot accept it. Well, excellent. Thank you all for taking time from your busy schedules. And if there's not any last comments, we will close.
Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to end on the up, which is Michael and Duane. I love that. I think it's an Irish expression, and it goes, the devil knows not for whom he works. Haha.
That's a good one. I love that.
Okay. Keep that in mind, kiddies.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, that's excellent. Why don't we close with the great invocation, sending out light and love and power into the etheric, astral, mental field, Buddhic, Atmic of the planetary logos, of which we're a cell within a group, within a greater group. Would somebody like to share the great invocation that we can follow along with? I'm afraid I have a little cough that wouldn't do it. Someone read the great invocation, and we can, as a group, send out all this healing energy which the world definitely needs.
I can do it, Duane. And
Thank you.
I'm in the heart center of the planet in Geneva at the moment. So it's a
Awesome.
good
You
place
speak with
to attune.
authority.
Yes. And there is a great deva of peace in this center of Geneva that wishes for humanity to receive its blessing of peace. And from that note, we link with this deva and we pour out through the 5 planetary centers these stanzas of the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Om.
Excellent. Love and goodwill to everyone.